Hi everybody, welcome to Kelsey Tech, and today we're going to be looking at Scratch 3.0, the new interface, and specifically how to edit characters or sprites as they're called, either from file or from the Sprite library. It's super easy, so let's go. So here we are in the Scratch interface, and I just created a new file. So I haven't done anything with it yet, and the first thing I'm going to do is rename it to have a meaningful file name. So this is going to be about developing sprites characters. So the first thing I will do is just delete the existing sprite because we don't want to use this one. And instead, I'm going to import my own sprite from file. So down here, you can see the sprite options. First of all, you can choose a sprite from the Sprite library, and there are a lot to choose from, and some good editing advantages with that choice. Next, you could paint your own sprite. This is really good when you want to create something like a small ball that you might be using in a shooting game. And next is a surprise. Who doesn't like surprises? So this will just randomly pick something for you. And this option is the one we're going to choose. And you'll notice it's an arrow pointing upwards because it's uploading. So let's select this one here. And if I go to my desktop, I have a folder called Scratch Projects. And inside of there is a subfolder called Developing Characters. So this is everything for this project. And so far, the only thing I have is just my icon. So this is me, Kelsey Ed, and I have made this a PNG editing in Photoshop. The reason it's a PNG is because I wanted to apply a transparent background, and JPEG does not have that capability. So it will give you a smaller file size, but you lose some of the features. And in Scratch, having a transparent background stops that white block look and make things a lot more professional. So here I come inserting this sprite, and there we go. It's a little big. First I'm going to put her over in the corner where I want her. She's going to be my quiz master. So I'm going to bring her down in size a little and just experiment. So let me try not 115, but maybe 15 or itty bitty. So maybe a little bigger than this. I'm going to go with 35 and pull her up a little bit more again. That's not too bad. So there's my sprite. Now I can also edit up here on the costumes. It has a transparent background. This is shown with the checker marks. And there's a few options I could do here. I could make copies of it, basic drawing and tools, fill and eraser. So if I wanted to, I could block fill something here. So I'll show you that later when we import some sprites that aren't so finished or that we want to create an animated effect with. So if you look in the description, there's a breakdown of the timings for the video, and you can just go ahead and skip to that section. So I'm going to keep this sprite and now concentrate on the backdrop. So over on this side of the screen is the backdrops. Now, because I was in the backdrop tab, the costume tab, sorry, it's now automatically changed to backdrop. So these three tabs are pretty much the same functions, but will change depending on whether it's a sprite or a backdrop. But the middle one is editing. So for my backdrop, it's currently blank. I'm just going to, again, add my own backdrop the same way I added a sprite here. And look at this, the options are so similar. Searching, painting, adding a surprise, or uploading. So searching is searching the Scratch library, and it is comprehensive or thorough. So I want to make a sort of farm theme quiz. So I'm just going to really speed my life up and search for farm. So here we go. That's pretty nice, right? And then look at that. I fit perfectly in here. It's the same color tones. Great. Now, there's not much I want to change here, but just to show you how you can. So, for example, let's say that I think this path should change color. Now, at the moment, I'm set to purple, and I could really simply just click fill and click right on that line there, and it's filled it purple. But maybe I want a different color. So I'm going to choose with this color picker. Okay, it's like a little pipette. You might have used it in science. And I'm just going to suck up the color that I want. And look at this big magnifying glass. And you see now it's purple, sort of beigey orange, lots of different colors. I'm going to match it with this, which is now automatically filled. And then again, I can just click where I want it and it's done. Very easy editing. And if you use the previous version of Scratch, you're hugely going to appreciate the improvements in editing. So here I am at the Sprite option. And again, I'm going to search the Sprite library. And my game is Farmyard, if you remember. And I specifically want to have a animal. So I choose animals. There we go. It's highlighted. And farm, my favorite is the chicken. Ooh, chickens. So now, if you notice, when I hold my cursor over each character, can you see it's animating? And actually, that means that this sprite has multiple costumes, and we can program for the costume to change, which creates animation. So we're going to choose the hatchling because he's super cute. And I'm going to go and edit his costume up in the costume tab. And here you can see the purple fill again. And if I hover over it, I can just click it, change it, done. I have a purple egg. But actually, I don't want purple. I want a little closer to like a British egg color, which is maybe more like this. Let's see how that looks. Maybe too much. There we go. Yeah, that's a little closer to what a British egg looks like. I've been eating white eggs for a lot of years now, and I kind of miss the look of a brown egg. So here's my sprite. Now I'm going to pick him up and drag him anywhere I want him. And I think it makes sense for him to be in here. And so this is costume number 1. The egg is closed. If I want, I can go look here at the next one in sequence, which is costume 2. And again, I'm going to change the egg color. Okay, just like that. And on the third costume, also change. Now, this one's a little zoomed in. You've got a couple of options. You could zoom it out like this so that you can see the whole sprite. Or you could just move from the sidebar up here, up and down. Super easy, but I'm going to zoom it out so I can see the whole image and then select what I'm looking for. Now, I also want to add a little something to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to super celebrate my chick getting out of his egg, because in my game, when he is progressing a level, he's progressing a costume. So we're going to celebrate that he has won the level. So I'm actually going to add like some confetti into this. So I'm going to use just a normal paintbrush. Now let's take a look. That's really big right now. So let's undo those two crazy lines. And then I'm going to bring my size of the pen down, maybe to 4. Let's test it. Maybe one more to 3. Okay. Now I'm going to just choose happy colors. So first I'm going to go with pink, and I'm just adding here little like excitement confetti. And maybe I'll have some green. And what else is a nice color? A bit of turquoise maybe. So put on a bit of this. Put on a little bit of this. Maybe that one's a little long. Let me get my eraser and just that little bit there. And it's transparent still. I know it looks like it's going wrong and you're deleting with white, but you're not. When you take your cursor away, it's going to be just fine. So I've got some excited little bits popping out of here. Maybe just one more color, a dark orange. Okay, so I'm choosing my dark orange. I'm going to go back to the paint and do some more. Now, you might notice here, I've now done confetti over the top of my sprite. Well, this is a great feature of graphic software and now a feature of Scratch also, but you can individually select every single object here. So that means this little one piece of confetti, I can select it individually, just that, and then I can change features like where it appears on the layer. So think about putting one layer on top of another, like you're making a collage, and each piece of paper you stick down, before you stick it, you layer them on top of each other, depending what you want at the front or the back. So this piece of confetti, I want it to be behind the chicken. So what I can do is I can just press like this, the backwards button. Now it doesn't seem like anything happened, but the problem is we've got so many individual objects. Look at each of them highlight as I move my mouse over it. So we need to find that specific object. Now it might take a long time pressing backwards, 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 backwards. You get it. What we can actually do is use this one, which will send it to the back, directly to the very back of the picture, just like that. And I can do the same thing with this one as well, send it to the back. And if you feel like you're happy with everything you've done, you can then group the whole thing together. So you just select and look at how many little objects there are in there. Now, if I group them all together, it means that they will now only move as one piece. Yep, look at that. Okay, now also something I want you to look at is this little icon here. This represents the middle of the sprite. Wherever this dot is will be the 0 point of the sprite. So I want to put it dead in the middle if I can, so that it doesn't negatively affect my sprite when I program. So I'm pretty pleased with that. He looks like a pretty cool chick. So maybe we should now consider creating some code for this chick. So what I would like to do is create a small algorithm, and an algorithm is a set of steps that can be used to complete a certain task. The task I want to complete is that I will change costume 3 times in order to show the chick exiting from his egg. So the first thing I want to do is go to Control and choose a repetition block, a repeat block, or what we would know as a loop. So first of all, I'm going to loop 3 times because there are 3 costumes. Go and take a look. 1, 2, 3. So for 3 times, I would like to repeat the changing of the costume. So over here is looks. Like when you put on a costume, you're thinking about your looks. So here we are. Now, if I look down these options, next costume. Now you can pick a specific costume to switch to, but next costume will reduce the amount of coding blocks you need to use, because we would have to do switch to hatchling A, then switch to hatchling B, then switch to hatchling C, that's a lot of code compared to this. So this same block, which takes only 2 instructions, does the same as this one here. I'm going to click this, and actually it looks like nothing happened. But it only looks like nothing happened because the one thing I'm missing here is a small wait, because computers move so fast that the instruction happens before you can even see it. So what we do is we put in a little wait here. Now, if I put in a 1-second wait and run the same thing, it's going to take a second before he changes. Now, the thing is, I'm also going to want another wait block between this one. Let's see it. Ta-da! Now, I can do the same thing in this one. And now we've got 5 lines of code that could just be 3 lines of code. I'm also going to change the wait time to 0.5. So let's run that. Yay, chicken. But I think maybe I might like that to happen more than once. I'm going to ask it to happen 3 times. So I'm going to bring another repeat block in and drag all my code inside this. So now what we have is a repeat 10 times this small loop 3 times. So if I run it, it should change costume, but repeat it 10 times. So that's 3, 4, 5. What comes next? So I'm just going to delete this code while I'm waiting and my test is running. But I think it's a little bit too much, 10 times. We're going to put it down to 2. And then I'm going to put a control block on top to make it run. And these will vary depending what you want to do. So in my game, the chances are is it could be when I press a button, but it's more likely to be when I receive a command, in which case I would be receiving with this block. If you wanted a character that animated for the whole game, press it when clicked. And then instead of repeating twice, repeat forever. So to give you an example of that, I can duplicate this code. I just selected the middle part. If I wanted to duplicate the whole thing, I click on the outer block and I get everything. If I just want this one, I just press that. So it's super intuitive. Now, I'm going to put this in a forever loop. So forever and ever and ever, it will continue. And by forever, we mean until we press the stop button. So when clicked, do forever this costume change. And he's just going to keep changing like that for the whole time that we keep talking. Now, that's a super useful piece of code. And so I want to show you down here the backpack. So those useful things that you need to use throughout your day, you put in your backpack, right? So that's the same thing we're going to do here. If I take this code and just drag it down to my backpack, it's now going to be saved inside of there. And not only can I use it again in this particular program, I can use it in any program because I take my backpack with me, whichever program I go to. So if I wanted to, I could pick this and drag the script onto here, and the same script would be applied. And it doesn't matter that it was written for this sprite because it still works when applied to this sprite. The computer knows which sprite you're using and who needs the code. So I'm going to delete that though because I don't need it here. Now I want to get another sprite that I'm going to bring from file. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the browser, the web browser, and to the search engine. And I already put in a search for farm animals, and I've got some suggestions, but specifically I want to choose an image. And also I definitely want it to be like a cartoon. But in addition to that, I want to make sure that I'm choosing something copyright free because although you probably won't make money from your Scratch programs or things that you produce, anything that you're producing publicly, you should consider copyright, whether that's acknowledging the person that you took it from, or using a copyright free source. So, a good way to help you with that is if you go to settings and tools. Both settings and tools can get the same thing. Tools gives you a quick access menu. In settings, you can go to advanced and have even more options. But I just need this usage rights, and I want it to be labeled for reuse. So I want it to be okay for me to reuse it. If you know you're not going to make money, you can use the non-commercial reuse. But since I'm posting my videos online, and sometimes if you have a lot of subscribers, I mean, we'll see. But if people began to subscribe a lot to me, I might receive money for my videos. So if I've used content that doesn't belong to me, then I'm causing copyright infringement. So I'm just going to choose labeled for reuse. So I'm going to select this one and look, it's changed my search results. Now the next thing I want is a transparent background. So if I go to color, I can also select transparent background. So now I've got some great options going on here. And actually I've changed my mind and decided that I specifically want a cow. I changed my mind. So let's go for cow. And you see all of these have remained the same. Now, actually, this is a lot of cow. I want just the face of my cow. What are we getting now? Ooh, so these are some quite cool options. Do you know what? I changed my mind again. Actually, I'm going to make it a bull. There we go. Bull. What do you think? So this same sort of cow bull popped up a few times. We've got this little bully. What should I choose? Now, we call this information overload when you have too many search results to choose from. Let me make sure I'm on cartoon, and I'm just going to take this guy. So here he is. I know it's a transparent background because I've got the checkers, and I'm going to save this now. So I'm just going to do a right click, and I'm going to save this image. And of course, I will put it in a good saving location. So here on my desktop, I have a folder called Scratch Projects, which we looked at before. And inside, I have my image folder where I'm now going to add this. And I'm going to make sure I also give that a good name. We're going to call it cow and save. So if I go back to Scratch, I can now insert that sprite. So do you remember? Choose a sprite. Which one? Up, because we're adding it up into the cloud from our local folder. So here's my local folder, choosing cow, PNG, because it has a transparent background, and pop it in. So here's my cow. He's also very big. Do you remember how to change the size? Maybe 20. That's a good cow. That's a good looking cow. So here he is. I'm going to put them there. But actually right now, I don't want my cow to show. So here I can hide the cow. I don't know why I whispered when I said hide. So I press hide. You can't see him on the screen, but you can still see him here. And we can, of course, go and change his costume. Now, limited editing tools again, but I'm going to use some fill options to, and maybe a little drawing to just make an interesting alternate costume. So first thing I will do is duplicate this. So now I have two cows. And this cow, he's going to go a bit crazy. So I'm going to pick a super bright color like pink. And I'm going to use the fill and I'm going to change all of his dark spots to be bright pink. Okay. And then I'm also going to draw. So I'm going to use an outlined, I don't want the full fill. I'm going to use an outline circle. Let me test the thickness. That's a bit too thick. Undo it. Let's bring it down to maybe a 2 or 3. Test it. That's nice. Undo that one. And then I want my color to be green maybe. And I'm just going to add in some kind of crazy green eyes like this. Okay, so now that's a slightly different looking cow. Should we go extra crazy and do a few more? Let's make it red. Kind of pinky red thing going on the nostrils. And the outer eye? Maybe just one. Okay, so we have a psychedelic cow. Now we're gonna basically apply the same code that we used earlier. So here in the code, I am going to pull my costume changing script from my backpack. Now, immediately, if I just unhide my cow, so I'm going to show the cow, if I just run this script, we can already see this flashing color change happening. So if something big happens, I could make this costume start flashing, or I can make him start spinning or something like that. If I wanted to add in a spin, I would just go to motion and maybe for every repetition, turn 15. Let's see what that does. Oh, look, so you can already see he's turning over here. So you saw that kind of like live updated. And if that wasn't fast enough for you, you could try putting it on the outside loop as well. So there's like an extra iteration. Or you could change the number of degrees. So like 50. So he's going to go further. Maybe I want him to go all the way around. So I might make it 180. So he goes from the top to the bottom. So that one you can see kind of flashes between much more. But again, I think I'm going to go with about 60. So he's spinning around, and I could also make him move. I could have him just move to a random position. So he just spins and moves. There's all sorts of stuff that you could have them do. But the big message here is that you can add a sprite that's completed already. You can add a sprite that exists in the library and make edits to the costume. And you can add your own characters, make edits to the costume, and just add them as new costumes. And you could have as many costumes as you want. I mean, look, I'm just going to keep duplicating it. And then eventually could change each one. So he could go from pink to then having orange, for example. We just very quick like that. And then this one is going to be blue. There you go. And so he's changing through a lot of different colors right now. And there's all sorts of ways that you can play around with simple costume changing to create really, really good effects. So in a quiz, for example, or a game, if you have something or you want a character to pop out at a certain time and just kind of do something crazy and entertaining, costume changing is a really great way to do that. So essentially what I have now, and I'm just going to hide my cow again, but what I have, sorry, hide, what I have is a background for a game. I have a space for my quizmaster. Okay, and maybe they might say something when I first see them. In fact, let's put a little something on them. So not sounds, but looks, because I want you to see him do something. And I'm just going to say something like, hello, welcome to my quiz. Quicks, quiz. just for 2 seconds. And that's going to happen as soon as the program begins. So in events, drag across. You might have noticed this is another really great feature of the new Scratch interface, is that not only has this section moved across the control panel, we've still got the same colors as before, but they're really taking a sort of tab format. It's very similar to what you see online, and you can scroll between. I'm just rolling my mouse up here, and I can scroll between all of these different sections, or I can directly hotspot to a section. So it's really improved interface. If there is anything that we didn't cover today, then please leave a comment, ask me a question, and let's see if we can add in anything that you need. So I hope you're enjoying learning Scratch 3 with its many improvements. This has been Kelsey Ed, and today you have learned how to edit sprites, including those from file and those from the existing sprite library, including basic algorithms for costume changing. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe.